Hello everybody, welcome back to the show. In the last episode, I finally was able to make some polyethylene. And I ended up with 24 polyethylene sheets, which is pretty good. So one batch of that sulfuric naphtha, and I got 24 polyethylene sheets. So I believe that with the advanced circuits, I only need one polyethylene sheet for each circuit. So being able to make 24 advanced circuits is going to be really pretty good, so that's nice. I did get one good bit of information from one of my viewers in that instead of distilling the heavy oil directly into sulfuric naphtha, I can distill the heavy oil into regular oil and then the regular oil into sulfuric naphtha. And doing that results in more sulfuric naphtha per oil, and so per heavy oil. In the end, I would yield more sulfuric naphtha. That way I would use less heavy oil to make the same amount of sulfuric naphtha. And I'm sure I could word that in many other ways that mean exactly the same thing and waste a lot more time, but I'll try not to. So I think that's a really good idea, and I haven't gotten around to doing that yet, but the other benefit on that is instead of using one advanced distillery, I would end up using two basic distilleries, which means they would both run on low voltage power, which also means this entire setup would be able to run on low voltage power, which is also a nice thing to have. So that's definitely something that I'm going to work on when I'm ready to do it. But now that I have these polyethylene sheets, let's look at making these advanced circuits, because as I believe I mentioned in the last episode, the advanced circuits are required to make any high voltage machinery, and it's also necessary for other types of things I might want to make, so I definitely want to do it. And in addition, the advanced circuits are an achievement that needs to be gained. So we'll look at the advanced circuit, and you can see here that it is made in an assembler with an advanced circuit board and advanced circuit parts. I suppose that kind of makes sense. And you can use lead, tin, or soldering alloy in order to kind of finish it up. And again, as I've mentioned in previous videos, lead would require the most of lead, less of tin, and the most efficient thing will be the soldering alloy. So we need to have these two things. So let's look at making these two things. The advanced circuit board requires an empty circuit board and some etched high voltage wiring in a forming press. I forgot to mention this, but if we go back to the assembler here, you can see that this does require 64 volts. So that means it is at least medium voltage or higher. You can't do it with low voltage machinery. And you'll see here that in this forming press also 64 volts also requires a medium voltage. So this empty circuit board requires a silicon plate and a polyethylene sheet. So that's where that comes from. That's in an assembler, and that can be done with a low voltage power. So I have already made this machinery that I believe I'm going to need. I've got an advanced assembling machine, an advanced forming press, the precision laser engraver we'll see in just a few minutes. So let me get started by sleeping the night away and setting up this machinery, and then we can look at actually making the advanced circuits. So for now, I'm just going to go ahead and pull off of this medium voltage battery buffer that I was using to make the polyethylene sheets with. I think that'll be fine. And for my friend Unplugged, just want to let you know I did make annealed copper to have a little bit less loss in my cables. This here is still a regular copper cable, so let me go take it out. Alright, so that being done, I'm going to run some cable, and I honestly don't like... I'm a little bit cramped in this corner, and I don't really like that. And I'm not going to keep this machinery here anyway, so for now, I'm just going to run some cables over like this. This is all going to get moved, so I know it doesn't look very good, but it's not going to stay this way, so just bear with me. Just want to show how this works for the most part. So what we need is... Let me go back to this and double check things here, because that is where the laser engraver comes from. So basically what I want to do is I want to have the assembling machine maybe there, and the forming press can go there, and the precision laser engraver can go there. Okay, so getting back to this, as I said, to make the advanced circuit board, we need an empty circuit board, and that requires a silicon plate and a polyethylene sheet. Now, we've already talked about how to get the polyethylene sheet. Silicon plates are made, as you can guess, from putting a silicon ingot into the basic bending machine, just like that. That will give us a silicon plate, very easy. Silicon is actually really easy to obtain. You do have to cook it in the electric blast furnace, or smelt it in the electric blast furnace, but it's actually pretty easy to obtain. So if you don't know how to get silicon, most of the time you can get silicon as a byproduct from processing various ores. So you can see there's 32 different ways to get it through the electrolyzer, all these different ways. And even through the centrifuge, there's 7 different ways. It's just different ores that you might process. But if everything seems to be a little bit on the difficult side, you can also get it from, I believe, sand. Yes. So if you get some, or clay even, but you just need some silicon dioxide dust, and you can get that, I believe, from macerating some sand. Let me see, pulverizing. I thought you could. Let me go back to this. Sand. There we go. So if you take sand, put it through an electrolyzer. That's it. You put it through an electrolyzer, you get silicon dioxide dust, and then if you put the silicon dioxide dust through an electrolyzer, you'll get silicon and a ton of oxygen. So if for some reason you don't have silicon in any other way, simply run up to your local desert and shovel up a whole bunch of sand. It won't take very long because sand is pretty easy to dig, and you will end up with enough silicon in no time. So as we saw, if I put the silicon plate and a polyethylene sheet in the assembly machine, I get the empty circuit board. Now, this only requires a basic assembling machine, but I go ahead and use the advanced assembly machine since it's over here anyway. There's no point in doing it some other way. So that's how you get an empty circuit board. Pretty simple. Now, the next part for this part, the advanced circuit board, is this etched high voltage wiring. Now we get that in a precision laser engraver, and then for that we need electrum foil as well as a lens. Now the lens in this case is something that's red, so you can make it out of jasper or ruby or red garnet, pretty much any kind of a red type gem turned into a lens. How do we make a lens? Well, that's pretty easy. We just need to put a plate of that into a lathe. So how do we get a plate? Well, if we take the cutting saw, we can get 9 of them from a block of whatever it is. How do we get the block? Well, we get that by compressing 9 of the relevant material. Phew, okay, well, that's okay. The nice thing is that the lenses don't get used up. So you're gonna make them and you'll have it for basically as many times as you're possibly gonna want to use it. So let's go see what kind of gems I have. I happen to have plenty of rubies, and I have even more red garnet. So let's go ahead and use the red garnet since I have so many of them. So we're gonna need 9 of them, like so. And we just need to take the 9 down to the compressor and turn it into a block. So go into my compressor here, take out my wood pulp, and I'll let that run, and I will be back when it's done. Okay, so we've got a block of red garnet, and again, we put that into the cutting machine like so, and then that will end up with 9 of the garnet plates. Okay, 9 garnet plates, we'll take those out, and then we put one of them into the lathe, and that will give us our red garnet lens, a red gemmed lens. Now, when we look at this laser engraver, which is over here, you'll see in the recipes that everything basically requires some type of lens. And there's basically there's a diamond lens, which I didn't know about, but a glass lens. There's the red, which is something like ruby or red garnet. There's a blue, which can be opal, or I think the blue can also be, what am I thinking of? maybe that's it. Maybe it's just opal. And then there's also a green, which is from emeralds. So basically you always have to have some type of lens, but again, the lens does not get used up. So having to go through this whole process just to make one of them seems like a waste, but that's just the way it goes. So we'll put that lens in there. So next thing we need in this process is these etched high voltage wiring. And we get those from electrum foil, and we get the electrum foil from an electrum plate. So we need to have some electrum. Now with PFAA mod, I can actually find bits of electrum laying about. So you can see here I have piles of electrum dust. But if you don't have electrum, you can make electrum by just combining gold and silver in the steam in an alloy smelter of any kind. So I'll put this in here and cook it up into an electrum ingot. There we go. And we'll take the electrum ingot and put it into the bending machine. And we get an electrum plate. We put that back through the bending machine. And we get the electrum foil. Great. So we'll take the electrum foil over to the laser engraver. And if we put that through, we will get the etched high voltage wiring. And 1 ingot of the electrum will produce 4 of these etched high voltage wiring, which conveniently is what you need in the forming press to combine with the empty circuit board. So the empty circuit board and the etched high voltage wiring will combine in the forming press and give us our advanced circuit board. Done and done. So that's step 1. The next thing we need to make are the advanced circuit parts. So let's look at that. You can see this is just made in a forming press. We need a lapis plate and some glowstone dust. And we can also use lazurite. If you find any lazurite, you can use that. But basically lapis or lazurite and glowstone dust. So the same process to get lapis plates, as far as I know anyway. We need to take 9 lapis and combine them into, or compress them, I should say, into a block and then cut the block. So we're going to do that. And I'm going to sleep real quick. I keep wanting to sleep the night away each night because of the solar steam boilers. They work better if it stays daylight as much as possible. So again, we're going to take the 9 lapis, put them into the steam compressor. All right, so there's our lapis block. We take that over to the cutting machine, put that in, and we end up with 9 of the lapis plates. So we just need to take these back over to the forming press here, and 1 lapis plate and 1 glowstone dust will give us the advanced circuit parts. There we go. Those are 2 things we need. And again, here is the advanced assembling machine. We do need to give it some soldering alloy, and we will do that with I already had it in my inventory, the basic fluid extractor, which needs to run on low voltage. So I need to run some cabling. All right, so I've got some cabling put down, and we can put the basic fluid extractor on top like that. That should be fine for now. And I will need to use a wrench to output, or to set the direction of the output the right way. So we'll take, and I'm also going to need some soldering alloy while I'm here. Do I have soldering alloy? That'll do for now. I think it uses half of an ingot worth. So we will set the basic fluid extractor to output downward into the assembly machine. And then in the basic fluid extractor, we'll put our soldering alloy ingot. That will turn it into a liquid. And we forgot to turn fluid auto output on, like that. And so that will put it into the advanced assembly machine. So now if I put in the advanced circuit board and the advanced circuit parts, like that, you can see it'll process up. It did use half of it, and now I finally have an advanced circuit. And if I throw that on the ground and pick it up, I will get the achievement for making an advanced circuit. Yay! So let's go look at our achievements real quick. GregTech, and there you can see craft advanced circuits taken. So energy flow circuits and data orbs will be the next in that particular line of process. So there you go, that's how you make the advanced circuits. Now I know it seems like a pretty complicated process, but it's really not so bad, and it can be automated. So as you can see, there is in this advanced circuit, there's one part that's required for making these advanced circuit parts, and that's a forming press with a lapis plate and glowstone. So I can just make a forming press with that and have that auto output into the assembler automatically. And then these advanced circuit parts is a forming press, and this empty circuit board is from an assembler. So I have an assembler that puts these two together that can output into the forming press. I can make another, or the laser engraver can make this and then output it into the forming press as well. And then the forming press would output into the assembler. So if I had all of that in a chain, it would be able to just pretty much automatically make the advanced circuit boards whenever I needed to do that. So yeah, that's how you make the advanced circuit boards. And I don't know if there's any other circuit. Well, the basic electronic circuit can also be made with this process. It's just slightly different. Requires a basic circuit board. We've already seen how to make that. And the NAND chips, which can be made in the assembler with the item casings and the red alloy wire. So again, a process that can be automated and made a little bit simpler. The basic electronic circuits, oh, that's the same as electronic circuit. The good electronic circuit, again, that's just in the assembler with those pieces, and we saw that we can make those pieces automatically. We've seen the advanced circuit. The data storage chip is a very similar process with an advanced circuit board, and it's just a different kind of, or that part is the same. This engraved crystal chip is, you know, as you can see here with the green lens of some type and a green plate of some type. And it just kind of goes up from there. It's all basically just variations or higher power requirements or more expensive material requirements to make the higher level of chips. But it all basically uses the same basic process of the assembly machine, the forming press, and the advanced precision, or a precision laser engraver, so of some level. So anyway, there you go. That's how we make the advanced circuits. And now that we can make advanced circuits, I can start making some other machinery that I haven't been able to make up to this point. But that is going to be something for another episode. And that is going to do it for this episode. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them for me in the comment section down below. I will read them. I do like reading them. As always, I thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time.